Today I would like to speak on the topic of just kind of realizing what we're going through today and why it's happening. And I think we know we have to go through it, but just to take a look at where it's all coming from, how it works, and how we are to look at our part in this whole play out of this whole movie that's going on. Okay, so first, I think we already know that all things that is happening is controlled. It's not something that is out of control of the Creator's hands or the Supreme Ruler's hands. Not something that is happening, and there is so much chaos that is out of control. Where I'm going to come from today is to show that there is no devil to worry about. Okay? Neither is there any God to fear. But we have to come to the point that we know ourselves and know who we are. And when we come to the point that we know who we are, we know ourselves, we know the forces that we're working with, and devil, we're going to create that devil if we understand how things work. And the blessings that we call that of God, we're going to do that too, based upon our actions, our choices that we make based upon the circumstances and situations that we face or that comes into our lives day by day. So the narrative is that man has fallen. Yes, it's fallen. Fallen. When you fall, where did he fall from? So there is if you fall, if he fell, he fell from somewhere. Okay, and so where did he fall to? Okay, well, we're kind of in that place that we find where man has fallen to. In the grand scheme of everything, man's fall is really for him to come to a place that he, or I shouldn't say man's fall, because the fall that we have is actually what you call man. Okay, our fall right now is part of what man is. Okay, where we are right now is not totally what it's all about, or what it was. But when the breath of life was put into what was created, it said man became a living being. So something was before that. Okay, so that living being then fell, and this is the death of that living being. But the death of the living being is not a physical death. It's a death, it's a spiritual death. It's a death that he's moved from his life. And this is where man has fallen to, is being separated from his life. Now, in our scripture, it tells us that Yahweh is our life. That's it, that is. So it tells you to do what Yahweh said, because Yahweh is your life. So pretty much we have become separated from that which would give us that great life. This is our fall. We have done that. Well, you have this, this Garden of Eden deal, and man was removed, if you want to say that, from this Garden of Eden. But in the Garden of Eden, let's say there was all these great things in there. It was paradise. It was the perfect utopia, because where your consciousness was before, this is what you created. This is what it was all about. Well, where we have fallen to today is actually what we have also created. Now, I'm not saying that we did it all on our own. We had help. However, when we help someone to create something, we have to share it. Okay? If we are assisting our Father in heaven in the creation of certain things that's with the Father in heaven, well, we're going to share in that. If we do something as what you would call in the Garden of Eden, when the serpent came out and the serpent deceived so-and-so and so-and-so. And then if we're deceived and we follow those instructions, then we have to share in whatever that brings forth. However, all of that is coming into play because I'm not sure if you guys ever heard of, I'm pretty sure you did, you've heard of the Yin and Yang kind of thing, light and darkness, negative and positive, left, right. All this is what is in play here, because these are all concepts of dualism. You have, even in today's world, you have those who know how to play this dualism. They're using it to their advantage as they play this Republican and Democrat. You know, they play the male, female, you know, straight, not straight, whatever the case. They know how to do it in all different kinds of ways. Well, in this dualism, it's telling us really how opposites or contrary forces actually, they complement each other in creation. In all these different principles, they're interconnected, and they're actually interdependent in actually bringing man to his realization of what he actually has to learn and come to after he has fallen and become present in this three-dimensional world. Okay? So whatever is going on, it's taking place for a reason, and it's all under control. And it's happening actually to give us the opportunity to actually wake up. It's giving us an opportunity as these forces actually interrelate, if you will, with each other day to day. Okay, so we've heard of the Yin Yang. Okay, but I'm going to have you go to a scripture now, and I'm going to show you the Yin Yang in your scriptures. I mean, it's there. It's just kind of hidden, and it's not even that hidden, but it's there. So I'm going to show you these interrelated forces that's all over our scriptures. So first one we're going to go to is Deuteronomy 27. And light, darkness, negative, positive, all these dualisms that you have, male, female, they actually work together. Okay? Now, in Deuteronomy 27, we're going to look at verse 12. We're going to start at verse 12. Okay? 27 and verse 12. It says, when you have crossed the Jordan, these tribes shall stand on Mount Gerizim to bless the people. And it names them. Now this is one nation, but these tribes have different functions. All these tribes have different functions. Now, in these different tribes, there are families in these different tribes, and these families also have different functions, going down to the very individual in each family that has each individual function. Now, take that right there, and we're going to look at that in the heavenly way. Okay? You look at your family, and the family has a name, and it has its function. Now, each member of the family has its own function, or his or her own function or choices, and we see that in the world. Now, in the heavenly world, we don't do it like we're doing it here in the earth, because how we do it in the earth, we follow a law that man has given us. And man has given us a law, and it's a statutory law, and he says, these are the laws. You don't go past this light right here. If you do these things right here, and you get a gun and you don't have a license, you're broken the law, whatever. and we have a corrupt system that's going on. However, in the heavenly mode, everybody respects the authority. Everybody. No one moves beyond it. And it plays perfectly out when you look at how the light and the dark, because the light and the dark is coming from your Father. Negative and positive coming from your Father. Your Father make alive, and he kills. He wounds, and he heals. This is all part of this dualism that's going on, all in the perfect balance of love. I just got to understand it. All in the perfect balance of love. So here we have these two tribes, this one nation, and this one nation that we're looking at, we're seeing that these tribes have different functions. In verse 13 it says, "And these tribes shall stand on Mount Ebal to pronounce curses." And it names those. Now this is one nation, and this nation has 12 tribes. And 6 tribes is to do yin, 6 tribes is yang, 6 tribes is dark, 6 tribes is light, 6 tribes negative, 6 is positive, 6 move to the left, 6 move to the right. Okay? 6 for blessing, 6 for cursing. This is a dualism. And when we look at this, we're going to see that these contrary forces, they complement each other. And they complement each other because they have been set up that way. And as they're complementing each other, now, when we realize who we are, then we don't try to resist them. That's not our job, to resist them. Okay, because we're not going to find that we resist them. There's certain things in your scriptures that tell you to resist certain things, but it's not talking about fighting against the forces. Okay, you and I are either going to be of the left hand or the right hand. We're going to be finding ourselves in one of these tribes doing something, and not necessarily of blood. Okay, but I mean, as the physical tribe is concerned, but we're going to find ourselves in the spiritual mode, in what you may call being placed in one of these tribes spiritually. If you're called to the right hand, then that's what you're going to do. You're going to be on the right hand, and you're going to be doing some blessings. If you're called to the left hand, then you are on the left hand, and there are those who are over you that has directed you to the left. And the left is going to be to bring curses. Okay, those of you who are off the right hand, you're here to bring blessings in certain kind of manner. But we're used. There's nothing that someone is going to have that has not been given to them. And if Yahweh chooses to have you on the right-hand side, that's where he has chosen you for. He has chosen to have you on the left-hand side. That's what he has chosen you for. So there are those who are on the left-hand side, but they're not our enemies. They are our brothers and sisters. Okay? We're of one nation. We're of the whole. We're of the one. We have to understand it. Now, the only problem is what we have been exposed to and what we have not seen that has actually caused us to live or fall, if you will, by certain circumstances and situations. Now, you got to think about it like this. If, what brought us to the place that we are? Each person think about that for themselves. What brought you to the point that you are? Now, if we are out there gangbanging, what brought us to that? If we're taking drugs, what brought us to that? Now, in the whole scheme of things, the person who is taking drugs, they may find themselves in a place that may turn them totally around, because that's the mode that they had to go, okay, or that was chosen, or they chose, but something was going to be there to create an object of correction that was going to bring them to the other side. Yes, because that's where they were in the first place. However, they came up in this earth because of certain things that they had to deal with from past experiences in life or in other lives, based upon the genetic code that they have right now, and based upon the circumstance and situation that they were born into, there were certain choices that each of us had to make. And these choices, okay, brought us to where we are right now, whether it's left or right, whatever the situation may be. But these are all things that we're learning. We're learning as we go along. Now, I want us to turn over to John. Now, remember, these tribes is one nation. They're one nation, and they have a command from the Creator, and the Creator has told them that they're going to be used for blessings and curses. And if they follow the instructions, it's coming right from the Creator. Right from the Creator. Now, if we look at John, okay, let's go to John chapter 3 first. John chapter 3. And this is Yachanan that is speaking here. And we're going to look at verse 27 first. John chapter 3 and verse 27 first. And he says here, a man can receive nothing unless it is given to him from above, or Yahweh. A man can receive nothing. Now, nothing means nothing. Okay, that means he can't receive that which is going to be off the left hand, or that which is off the right hand, that which is of negative or positive, dark or light, whatever, can receive nothing. So, and this is all in control. This is in control. Okay, now, this is not your life. The physical things that you're here dealing with every day, this is not your life. This is your experience. That's all it really is. And this experience is to assist you and I in this, in our travels, if you will, okay, moving from one dimension to another dimension, from one density to another density, from one consciousness to another consciousness, as we move through the earth ages. So things have to happen to us for us to learn how to function in the lower world without getting stuck, and how to function in the higher worlds with all the freedom, and to go back and forth, because truly when you're outside of this body, you're interdimensional and you're multidimensional individuals. You can move all about. However, if you take a look down at your hand, that hand that you see there and the flesh is actually your prison. Okay? That prison right there, that came from the earth. And you and I are held in that, and we come in this, and in this we have experiences in this life right here. These are experiences that you're having. But nothing could come to this body and create a circumstance in this body or a situation in this body unless it has been already determined from above. And it's going to be determined for your growth and my growth. That's what it's going to be. Now, no one is going to force us to choose one way or another. That's not where it's at. No one is going to. We have free will. We could choose to do whatever we want to do. The only thing that's going to come into our lives are those things that have been preordained to come into our lives. There's preordination that you have to deal with. And everyone has to deal with this. And there are certain things that's your choice. Now, if you have a debt that you have to deal with, well, this is where preordination comes in, because you are already preordained for this right here. However, so you're going to meet this debt, whatever it may be, money, you killed somebody, whatever. So you're going to meet this debt. And that's already preordained before you even come into this world, that you're going to meet that debt. Now, where our choices come in, we have freedom of choice, is what we do when we meet that death. Because it's going to be brought to us. Guess how? We're going to get it because it has already been determined from above for us to deal with it in this present. When we get it, then we have a choice. What do? Do we balance it or do we fight against it? Now, when we know ourselves, we know that everything has to come to balance. That's what the name of the game is, balance. Now, let's turn over to John 19. If we realize that we have come into this world, okay, and we have made choices that have caused us to become imprisoned. In our scripture, it tells us that we are imprisoned by our own disobedience. Well, if we're imprisoned by our own disobedience, then what will actually create the balance to become obedient? Well, what happens then? How do we become obedient? Well, Moshe tells you now, before there was the law, we didn't know this stuff. But the law came into effect to show us what is not the proper thing to do and the proper things to do. That's when the law came in. Because before the law, hey, there was nothing like that. So the law came in and it met us where we were in our journey. That's what it did. And it's telling us, if you do these things, you will raise yourselves up to the next level that I'll catch you and take you further up. And if you don't do these things, you're going to fall further into this bottomless pit, which is all in our minds. Okay, it's all consciousness. And we're going to do more things that's going to cause us to have more issues and go further into this bottomless pit. And we go as far as we want to because it's just sinking. So that's what the law did. Well, the law would deliver us to what you call Messiah, which would actually be the doorway to, and these are all what you call doorways. When you look at the law of Moshe, we understand these are all what you would call doors. These, because that's all they're showing you. I mean, it's telling you one thing that you may read and understand as English, but it's telling you another thing, and it wants you to understand this other thing on a spiritual level, because this is a doorway, okay? And it's coded, but once you are able to pass that doorway, all of a sudden you see what it's actually speaking of. Because it's not just speaking of dealing with physical things. It's telling you about the true things that you and I have to deal with. And these things are not what you and I necessarily look at and see every day. Because the invisible things are understood by the things that you and I see. Now, in this prison that we have, that we're stuck to, you could see certain things physically. However, when you become intellectual and you understand a word, and you could look into that word and get past that doorway, then there is a lot more that intellectual mind is going to bring you to. That's going to be much more than intellectual, because it's bringing you to something spiritual now. Now, spiritual is not concrete. So you have to have a whole different mind to grab this. But the intellectual mind wants to hold us in this concrete place where this doorway wants to take you to a place that you may not be comfortable with, because it's all liquid, if you will. It's all over the place, and you have to find your place in there to swim with, and become comfortable. Okay, so now we're going over to John 19 now. This is all doorways that your Father allows you to come to and actually enter in. But if you look at what Moshe is saying, Moshe is not just talking about physical things. These are all keys to open doors. when you come to them, that's what the law, Moshe's law, is trying to give us. They're keys to doors. That once you and I understand what some of these words are saying, what he's actually saying, you are entering into a doorway when you do them. Okay, in chapter 19 of John, let's look at verse 11. This is Yahshua speaking now. So we saw John that says, you can't receive anything unless it's been given to us. Nothing, no thing. Unless it's been given from above. Now here goes Yahshua, and Yahshua says this in verse 11. You could have no authority against me unless it were given to you from above. This is what he's saying. He's saying the same thing that Yachanan was saying. There is nothing that they could do to Yahshua that wasn't given up that authority from above. Now, this is all in those tribes, six for blessing, 6 for cursing. This is all light and dark forces working. Okay, they seem to be working against each other, but they're interconnected. They're interdependent in our 3D world right here to give us the opportunity in their interrelation, okay, to actually get out, to actually grow, okay? Because these contrary forces, they're complementing each other. Now, if we realize that, it's great. Now we know that this guy next door is not fighting against us because we're not wrestling against that guy. Because there's a force that is way above this. That, now remember now, nothing can be given to that guy next door unless it's from above. So we have principalities and powers in high places above that's using people to move them in one direction or another. Now, if you have been chosen, for the individual that is there to now to ascend, well, those principalities and powers, they have been given the go-ahead, if you will, or the authority to bring the guy next door into your face. This is how the Father moves you and I into a place that we could become that burnt offering. So that guy next door could hate us, but yet we could do what the Creator says and love him. Okay? Now, if we have that spirit to love somebody while they're hating us, that has been given to us from above also. Why? Because we have been chasing it. We've been wanting it. Well, if we've been wanting money, well, that's where we're going to go to. Because that's what we are attracting into our field. And money is going to blind us when it comes to the real thing. Okay? When it comes to the real, true value. Things in this world and the happiness of this world and things that make the regular man in here feels good, they could be distractions. Okay? The love of the world, it could be a great distraction. So Yahshua is telling us now that they would have no power over him. Now, this man came in here to do a great deed. He came in here, he said, to make the oppressed go free, to give sight to the blind, right? That's what he said. Okay? To preach the acceptable day of Yahweh. Oh, man, that's great. Now, well, why would Yahweh get this man killed? Because nothing is going to happen unless it's coming from above. It has to come from above. The charge has to come from above. Now, let's go over to Revelations. There's nothing. Revelations chapter 7. Okay? And we're going to look at the first verse here. Revelations chapter 7. Okay. Revelation chapter 7. I want you guys to see this. Okay. In verse 7,
We're going to start at chapter 7, we're going to start at verse 1. It says, after these things, I saw 4 Malachim. Now, before I go any further, I want to say something. We were in the HOI, and the HOI pretty much told us that the messengers of Yahweh were Malachim, and the messengers of Satan were angels. Okay? Now, that's all part of the programming. We've been getting programmed, guys, way back. The Catholic Church did very well programming us and programming the churches that we went to that it had an influence on. And it's no different. The HOI had the same influence, you know. I mean, they did the best that they could. However, they were stuck in certain places, and they wanted to remove themselves so far from the regular Christianity that in some areas, I guess it was removed so far that it didn't help, and it actually bound our minds to function into that doctrine, which a lot of it we have to let go of. Okay, so here, what I want us to understand that whether it's for the dark or the light, is coming from one spirit. Okay, so the messengers of Satan and the messengers of Yahweh are the same, are coming from the same place. They're going to follow the same authority. Okay, now Yahshua, they told Yahshua, when Yahshua helped somebody, they said he cast out demons by Beelzebub or Satan, whatever. And he told them at one point, he says, if Satan cast out Satan, Satan's kingdom can't stand. Exactly. Because Satan is under authority, and Satan has a whole bunch of forces under Satan. But Satan is under authority too. Okay? So Satan's kingdom comes under the one. Satan is playing for the dark side, while others are playing for the light side. But they're all complementing, these contrary forces complementing each other for your sake in a 3D world. For your sake and my sake in a 3D world. Because certain things have to come to us in order for us to move to our Father. Whoever the Father loves, he scourges. How does he do it? He's going to use a negative force. He uses a negative force. It comes off as negative in our world, but in where the Father is at, in that area of awareness, it's not negative or positive. Something is being done to direct you to him. That's all it is. Okay, so for that to happen, there is a need for negative forces to bring certain things forth. So there's a need for Satan. Trust me, without Satan, you're not getting out of here. Okay? Because Satan is going to scare our rear ends out of here. Okay? And I shouldn't say scare, because none of them are scares. Yet at first it may be, but after a while, you are going to learn how to work with the forces. Okay, so I'm going to go back and read chapter 7 and verse 1. It said, after these things I saw 4 Malachim, angels or Malachim, it don't really matter, they're all elementals. Okay? But Malachim is pretty much what it is in Hebrew, but they're Malachim also that are not necessarily going to be of the light side. Okay, so there's 4 Malachim standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. So they're holding these 4 winds, so that the winds should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on the tree. Well, these are spiritual forces that is holding back forces, other lesser forces. so that they don't blow on anything on the earth. But it's not talking about a tree, my friend. It's not talking about the sea, because it's not going to hurt the tree or the sea. The tree and the sea, those guys are going to work with nature. Okay? If there is a fire on the earth, it's not hurting the earth. Not hurting the earth. The earth loves it. Okay? Because when there's a fire, it comes back even richer. What is the wind going to do to the sea? But cause the waves to get a little bit higher, whatever. What does it do? Okay? This is talking about you and I. The tree are those who are teachers of this earth. The sea are the nations. These are people, nations. That's really what they are. And the earth are those who inhabit the earth. So there's something that's coming to the earth, and there are forces that are holding this back. Forces. Now let's go to verse 2 now. And I saw another Malach ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Father, and cried with a loud voice to the four Malachim, whom it was given to hurt. So here comes something coming from the Father of heaven. Okay? It's a messenger going to the messengers that it was given to hurt the earth, to bring certain things upon the earth. For what? These are dark forces now, but they're being used. They can't go past what the Father said. Nothing is going to be given unless it was given from above. Nothing. So all that these guys are doing right now, it has come from above for your benefits and my benefit. We have to see it, and we have to know how to move with it. Okay? Because if you don't move with it in a certain manner, it's going to break you. So we have to know how to stand. We have to know how to flow. Okay? That's what we got to do. Now, we have to be wise as a serpent and still harmless as a dove. That's the same duality. Okay? The same duality. That's going to complement each other. If in some regards you're like a serpent, and in some regards you're like the dove. It's the same complementary forces that you're going to use to get through this. Now, whether your life is taken or not, that's what has been determined from above. Okay? But certain things have been given to you in here, certain understanding for you to hold on to. And when the Father tells you to resist, this is what he's talking about, resisting. You holding on to what he says. This is your resistance. Okay? He says resist, firm in the faith, or firm in your faith. This is what you're going to do. So what's going to cause you to resist? Your faith. That's the only thing. So if we are doing those things that the Father said to do, we're going to move through this. And whether we go, is what has been determined. Whether you go or not, nothing could come unless it has been given. Like Yahshua said, you would not have authority over me unless it was given to you from my Father above. That's the only way they're going to get to you. And if you're determined to stay here to help to bring things back to normal, or I shouldn't say normal, to bring people so that the earth will be a new earth, because part of the what your work or your ministry, whatever you want to call it, would be in here helping that. That's what it's for. If you're supposed to be out of here and influenced from another dimension, that's what has been determined from above. Okay, so we're looking here now. So he goes in verse 3. So it's telling this other Malach, do not hurt the earth, the tree, the sea, nothing. It says in verse 3, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, until we have sealed the servants of our Father in their foreheads. In other words, don't do anything, because this is what has been determined from above, until this thing has happened. When this thing here has happened, then they have just been given the authority to go forth. But what are they going to do? Are they coming to shake our hands? No. It plainly says it was given to hurt. It was given to hurt. Okay, now these 4 angels, they use lesser, what you want to call it, demons, you know, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I call them elementals, because that's why I just kind of categorize them under different levels of elementals. So these 4 Malachim that were given to hurt the earth, it's not like there's 4 of them coming to do something. No, these are 4 that they're like generals. Okay? And they have many troops under them to do the job that they're going to do. They have many. So they use lesser demons that they have, that these are spiritual forces, to influence those who are in the world. Now, there's a scripture that tells us that, you know, in Yachanan said he saw these unclean spirits, like frogs, came out of the mouth of the beast and out of the mouth of the false prophets, and they went to the kings of the earth, whatever. So you're seeing here, there's spirits that have come into the earth, and the way they have done it is to influence a false prophet. And this false prophet has power over the kings of the earth. And the kings of the earth have the power to make rules and laws in the earth to affect the people. The seed and the tree. Okay? But they're unclean spirits that's bringing this. Now, these unclean spirits, they're under the same authority. We just saw that it was given to these guys to hurt the earth. Those same unclean spirits, okay, that influence the false prophet, to influence the kings of the earth, they're under the same authority. Complementary forces. That's working for one thing. And that thing is for you and I. You got to see it, though. Okay? Now, let's go to Job, the book of Job. In the book of Job, we're going to go to chapter 1. Chapter 1 of Job. Okay? Here goes the same forces that we have here. They're all elementals, but I mean, these are the same forces. They're under the same authority. Chapter 1, verse 6. It says, now there was a day when the servants of Yahweh, you just said the sons of Yahweh, okay, servants, whatever, came to present themselves before Yahweh. And Satan also came among them. Why was Satan amongst them? Satan was presenting self before Yahweh. So Yahweh is clearly in charge because they came to present themselves to Yahweh. Okay. Yahweh said to Satan, where do you come from, Satan? Answered Yahweh and said, from going back and forth in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. Satan has a job. Now let's hold the place right there and turn over to 1 Peter. Satan came to present, see how So he could say give his report, or her report, whatever you want to say. Okay? So go to 1 Peter, chapter 5. Okay, and remember here, Satan said he's coming from roaming through and forth through the earth, walking back and forth in it. Ooh. I gave you a job to do, and you're just going back and forth in the earth. What? For what? This sounds like you're on vacation. Now, that's a job that has been given to help us. I'm going to show you how it's going to help you, and I'm sure you guys already know. But see, you and I have to become that burnt offering. We have to give our sin offering, and we have to give our peace offering. We went over that quite extensively for the last 2 or 3 months. Okay, so he goes now. In chapter 5 of 1 Peter, and look in verse 8. He says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom she may devour. Now it says here, resist her by remaining firm in your faith, knowing that the same affliction also are fully endured by your brothers in the world. Now, Satan uses devils. Satan is a general. Satan is going to use lesser demonic forces. These are all devils. These are the ones who come to you in your mind, in my mind, and they try to get us to be angry at each other, or whatever the situation may be. Because that's what makes us have spirits of devils. Now, when we have the spirit of devils, guess who can use us? Satan can use us. When we have the spirit of Messiah, guess who's going to use us? When we put all that stuff down, guess who uses us? Your Father in heaven uses us. So when it says Satan the devil, they're not necessarily the same thing. No different than it says Yahshua Messiah. They're not necessarily the same thing. There's a son and there's Yahshua. There is Satan, and then there's lesser spirits that Satan uses that they call devils. And if you and I have that spirit of devils that we're allowing to move through us, then guess who we're going to be serving? We're going to be serving the left hand. We're going to be serving the dark. Now, which one do you want to? Because if you really want to serve the dark side, it's going to be given to us. A man is going to reap what he sows. So if that's what we want, we put our attention there, guess what is going to grow? Whatever we feed, that will grow. So if we're going to feed the right fruits now, well, guess what's going to grow there too? We're going to grow light. Okay? If we're feeding the things that bring forth light, guess what? We're going to bring forth light. We're going to bear light. And we're going to have a different spirit that comes. Okay? But either spirit, they're under the same one. The same one. And that spirit may come and it may give you the ability to speak in different languages that everyone could understand different languages. And you get that spirit that will give you that. One may give you the spirit of healing. Okay, one may give you the spirit of prophecy. You may have the spirit of teaching. Whatever it is, it's from one spirit. You may have the gift or spirit of lying. You may have the spirit of thievery. You may have a insatiable sexual spirit that's there. all of it is coming from one spirit. Okay? However, they're coming from different sides because there's a dark side and it has its own general. And there's a light side that has its own general, but they're all under the same authority. And they're used. In your scripture, it tells you one time that they were going to get to Ahab, and they had a meeting. Okay, and the meeting, it said, well, who is going to be a lion spirit in the prophet of Ahab? And someone came along and said, okay, I'll do it. They said, great. Now you go and you do this and you do that over there, and you get them to go there, and then I'll strike them. All from the same spirit. All from the same spirit. Now, there was the children of Israel coming out of Egypt. And Moshe was told by a spirit to go and do certain things. Okay? When he went there, okay, Pharaoh was a little, obstinate, and he went back and said whatever, he gave his report. He says, okay, you go and go back there, and I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart that I may strike them. And that's the spirit that said he's going to harden Pharaoh's heart. Pharaoh wasn't going to get out of this, because it was already given to Pharaoh by a spirit that he wasn't going to move in the mode that would have saved Egypt, because judgment was already determined to come upon Egypt. And it was going to come through the decisions or the choices that the leader was going to make. I'm just trying to bring the reality of the situation to us so we know we have to work with what the Father says. Okay? Okay, so Satan is moving back and forth through this earth, seeking whom they may devour. Now, it's not just Satan moving. No, it's a whole crew. Hundreds of thousands, millions. I really don't know. I couldn't really tell you, but I know it's just not one individual or one spirit. They're all spirits. Just like you have many human beings in the earth, you have many spirits. Okay? There are many spirits out there. Okay. So Satan is moving. But notice what it says, guys. It's told you and I to be sober and vigilant in our minds. In our minds. Okay? In our minds. Okay. So that's how you're going to be sober and vigilant. And you're going to hold on to your faith. You can't be sober any other way. Now, it's not talking about being drunk with wine. If you're sober, you're sober-minded. There are no influences upon you that's taking over your mind. You're sober-minded. And know what your adversary is going to be doing. Because your adversary is going to be working with lesser demons, just like it did on that false prophet. Because that false prophet has given himself to that. So it's going to be used for darkness. And it's being used for darkness because that mind has given itself there. So those spirits can use those minds. So that's the devil. And so when Satan gets ready to move, Satan, guess what? Could use devils. Okay, now let's go back over to Job, chapter 1. I'm going to read verse 12 now. I'm sorry, we left off at verse 8. Verse 7. What is it, verse 7? Okay, so Satan was going to say, I'm going all over the earth, looking for those who are of a mind that can be used to do dark things. In verse 8, then Yahweh said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There is none like him in the earth, a perfect man, one who reverences Yahweh and shuns evil. In your mode going back and forth through there and seeing who you could devour, did you check out Job to see what you could do there? Satan answered Yahweh and said, does Job reverence Yahweh for no reason? Because Satan here is the accuser. So Satan, these guys work the very same way. There is no one who could play in their club unless that individual has done something that they could hold against them to accuse them and control their activity. They do the very same thing because they're following their father, the devil. Okay? That's who they are. They're devils. And they have been spawned by one of these lesser demons that Satan is over. So how do you do it? You get something on them so you can control them. Well, Satan is the accuser because whenever these guys get ready, they can pull down anyone that they want to pull down that don't follow what they say. Accuse them. You get Bill Cosby. How did he go down? Accused. Well, look at them. They're accused because he had the game, he had the run, they gave him whatever, and when they came back and said, okay, I want you to do this, he said, no, I can't do that one. And they said, okay, we already got this on you. Because to play their game, you have to do something that they get something on you. They'll promise you all the riches and all that stuff right there. Hey, you can have that because they control it. But they're going to have something on you. Okay, in verse 8 here, have you considered my servant Job? There's nobody like him. He gets away from all that is evil. And Satan said, hey, Job don't do this for no reason. You put everything around this guy. Okay, he says, have you not made a hedge around him as well as around his household and all that he has on every side? You have blessed his every effort, and his possessions have increased in the land. Because that's where Job's mind is. His spirit is in there. Okay, so he's attracting those things. But at any time, there could be some kind of authority that's given or, to go and test that. To bring you and I to an even greater place. It says, but just put out your hand and strike all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. This entity trying to get something on Job. So it goes to present itself, and in presenting itself, it says, well, this guy right here that you're saying is so great, I have nothing to accuse him of, but if you do this, I will have something to accuse him. I will have something. He ain't that good. So he goes now. So Yahweh said to Satan, behold, all that he has is in your hands. This is verse 12. In your power, just do not lay your hands on him personally. So Satan departed from the presence of Yahweh. Says, bet. Great. All right, watch. It's going to happen. But if you read the story, you'll see that the things that happened to Job didn't seemingly come from above. No. The Sabeans attacked his family, killed a whole bunch of folks. There were forces in the earth that came against him. But nothing could be done by those forces in the earth Though each individual in those families, each individual, it says nothing could be given any man unless it was from above. So everybody who moved against Eob, whatever they had, it was, whether it was them personally, whether it was their king that gave them an instruction, whether the king got it from his prophet, that got it from these frogs, okay, or these unclean spirits that are frogs, whatever, that got it from Satan, it doesn't really matter. I'm trying to show you, it comes down, and whatever happened, there were people who got stuck on principalities and powers in high places that used Eob's fellow human beings to attack him, to bring forth issues against that man. That's what happens. Now, so this is all to get something on Eob as far as the dark side is concerned. However, from the light side is to solidify Eob, is to test him. Your Father comes to test you and I to see if we love him with all our heart, soul, and might. Well, how do we show our love? If you love me, keep my commandments. Keeping those commandments will bring us to the light side. Okay? To bring you to light. Okay. Now, when you reach light, you may be asked to, because everything is given to you as you're moving along. But when you get to a certain point, then certain things are put before you, and the choices become harder. Because your life may be at stake. And then the choices become harder. Okay? Now, in this is where the patience of the saints, your scripture and my scripture says, are tested. Okay? Those who could be purified by fire, that's what it's going to be. Those who are going to be purified by water, that's where that's going to be. Now, let's go to Matthew. Let's go to Matthew chapter 13. Okay? Matthew 13, and we're going to look today at Matthew 13 and verse 39. Let's start at verse 39. Okay. Now, let's go to 38. It says, the field is the world. The worthy seeds are the children of the kingdom. But the tares are the children of the wicked one. The wicked one and the children of the kingdom, they are coming from different generals. But both of those generals have the same authority, or have the same spirit over them that is saying, you go here and you can't go there. They have the same authority over them. Okay, so verse 39 then. The enemy that sowed them is the devil. Devil is in the mind. Okay? That's where the devil is going to come. Principalities and powers in high places, they broadcast to you and I, and we pick up their frequency. If we don't have enough of the frequency of the Father, we're going to feed them. And they're going to slowly take us away. And guess what? We're going to have to be working for Satan. Okay. So you see these guys out here, they worship, the Satan worshipers, whatever. Hey, that's what they do. They do that because they have moved from the area of light, or I'm not even sure if they were there, but I'll just say that for now. They have moved from the area of light to darkness. And darkness is where all the devils, the screech owls, spiritually, are at. So the enemies that sowed them is the devil. Notice what it says here, guys. The harvest is the end of the age. And the reapers are the Malachim. The reapers are the Malachim. Now, angels or Malachim, it doesn't really matter. They're all the same. And we may not get to go over it today, But you're going to see that the Malachim, who are the reapers, they're going to bring forth things that are not so popular to us in the ego, and they're going to bring forth things that are great for us. They're the reapers. Now you think of wheat that is there, and it's time for harvest, and you're going to cut that wheat down and bring it through a whole bunch of changes to get it to nourish the family. Everything is not going to go the way that you and I think it should go. There's going to be a lot of discomforts there. And it's all by the Malachim. The Malachim are the reapers. And they're going to be complementary forces being used to do this reaping. Okay? Now, let's look a little further here. Okay. It says, just as the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so will it be at the end of the age for those who are on a particular spirit. Here goes. The Son of Man will send out his Malachim. His Malachim to do what? To shake the hands? And they will gather out of his kingdom all who cause others to be offended and those who transgress. Those are going to be gathered out. By who? The Malachim, who are got the four winds to blow upon the earth. And will cast them into the furnace, into a furnace of fire, to be tormented here. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is the Son of Man who has given an order, or this is the Spirit of the Son who has given an order to Malachim to use other Malachim to bring negative forces in the earth against certain ones. Then the righteous will shine forth like the sun in the kingdom of the Father, of their Father. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. This is going to be happening. Okay? But it's not going to happen by us looking in the sky and seeing this big fight going on in those areas. Now, I'm going to go to my last scripture for today. Okay? Let's go to Revelations. Revelations chapter 9. So we just got done looking at the Son of Man will come, and he's going to send Malachim to do things that we would consider negative. He's going to burn folks and gather them out of the kingdom, to do things like you would be when you're harvesting your wheat. The tares are going to be taken out, and the tares, certain things are going to be happening to the tares. But the wheat is also cut down and transformed. Look at chapter 9 of Revelations, and let's look at verse 10. Verse 10. It says, and they had tails similar to scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power, notice what their power was to hurt men. Their power was to hurt men. So these are elementals that have power. They've been given their power to hurt men. Notice this in verse 11. And they had a king over them. Notice what? An angel. A Malachim. A Malach. They had an angel over them. Okay? The angel of the bottomless pit that had all these demons. Lesser demons. They had a king, whose name in the Hebrew language is Abaddon, and that's a proper name. But in the Greek language, he has the name Apollyon. So they were given, this is an angel, mallet, whatever you want to call it, they were given the authority because now it wasn't held back. They could not do anything. Abaddon could not do anything unless it was given to Abaddon. And Abaddon has all these other guys, like similar to scorpions, whatever. Abaddon is not just walking through here doing things all, by himself. Abaddon has lesser demons, lesser demigods, lesser nature spirits, whatever you want to put it, but they're all elementals. And these guys are used, and they complement each other, just as the yin and the yang. Just as yin and yang. In the same manner, light and dark. Your Father kills, He makes alive, He wounds, and He heals, all in the perfect balance of love. And it all works out for those who love Him.